Chosen one, listen, heaven has interrupted your timeline. Everything around you slows because this message is not entertainment. It is a divine alert. You have been running fast, scrolling, surviving, trying to fill the emptiness with noise. But heaven has decided that this moment will no longer pass unnoticed. You were marked long ago, and now that mark burns brighter. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. Something deep inside you already feels it. You can't shake the tension between what you are doing and who you are meant to be. You've tried to quiet it with distractions, but that voice returns. It comes in the silence after midnight. It speaks through the ache in your heart. It says, "You cannot keep living beneath what was written about you." That whisper is not guilt, it's guidance. Heaven is pulling you back into alignment because the hour is serious. The Spirit moves tonight with authority and tenderness, reminding you that your delay is dangerous. You've been called to carry light, yet you've been hiding it beneath fear, comfort, and doubt. But heaven is saying, no more. You were chosen for a divine purpose that cannot be postponed. It is declared in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 14. Awake, you who sleep. Rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Those words are thunder from eternity. They call you out of spiritual sleep. They command your soul to wake up before darkness hardens your heart. You have walked through pain, but that pain was not random, it was preparation. Every battle you fought trained your spirit to discern the difference between noise and truth. You are hearing truth now. Chosen one, do not play with this message. Too many people have treated holy moments like casual options. Too many have traded eternal crowns for temporary comfort. But your name was written in divine ink before the foundations of the world. Your journey has been guarded by unseen hands. You cannot pretend not to know anymore. The time for excuses is over. The enemy is subtle. He will not always attack you with obvious sin. Sometimes he just keeps you busy, distracted, comfortable enough to stay asleep. But while you drift, destiny waits. Every delay costs more than you realize. Every compromise dims your light. The longer you ignore your calling, the heavier your spirit becomes. That heaviness you feel, it's not depression alone. It's heaven pressing on your conscience, saying, wake up before it's too late. Do you remember those moments when you almost lost everything? Yet something unseen pulled you back. That was not luck, it was mercy. You were spared because your story is not finished. There are lives attached to your obedience. And that's why God refuses to let you go. Look around you. The world is shaking. The lines between light and darkness are clearer than ever. And in the middle of it, God is looking for those who will stand. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to disrupt darkness. Your very existence threatens hell. Every time you survive, you testify that grace still works. Every time you rise again, heaven applauds and darkness trembles. But hear this, grace does not remove responsibility. Grace gives you the strength to respond. You have been given another chance not to drift, but to decide. Choose to obey before the door closes. Heaven is not playing games, and neither should you. This word comes as both comfort and confrontation. Comfort because God has not forgotten you. Confrontation because He refuses to let you waste what He placed inside you. You are being called to wake up. Stand up and speak up. Your silence cannot continue. Your compromise cannot continue. Heaven has invested too much in you. So right now, take a prophetic step. If you know this word reaches deep into your spirit, do not scroll past it. Like, share, and subscribe not for attention, but as a declaration, I am awake. These small actions are symbolic obedience, a visible yes to an invisible call. Every act of faith you take in public becomes a witness in heaven. This message will not return empty. The words spoken here will echo in your dreams, in your prayers, and in your choices. You will feel the pull of purpose again because the fire is reigniting. You will sense the urgency again because eternity is closer than you think. And now, heaven asks for your response. Type this number below to mark your agreement: 7. 7, the number of divine completion. When you do, you are saying, I hear, I awaken, I rise. Heaven records your obedience. This is not just another message, this is a turning point. You will look back at this day and realize everything shifted here. The silence breaks. The slumber ends. The light returns. You are chosen, and now you are awake. You were set apart before you even understood what that meant. Long before anyone knew your name, heaven already did. You were woven together with intention, designed for a purpose that the world cannot erase. Every detail of your life, every scar, every moment of confusion, every silence was written into a divine blueprint. You carry something sacred that not everyone will recognize. And that is why your path has never looked like theirs. Being chosen has always carried a weight. You have felt it, even when you didn't have the words to explain it. The strange sense of responsibility, the invisible pressure to do right when no one else cared, the loneliness of feeling different. You thought it was rejection, but it was separation. You were not being punished, you were being prepared. God doesn't choose people for comfort, He chooses them for purpose. When heaven calls someone, it doesn't hand them luxury, it hands them responsibility. It says, will you carry what others drop? Will you remain faithful when no one notices? That is the true cost of being chosen. You've always known there was more to you than what people see. You've felt the pull between who you are and who you must become. That tension inside of you, that quiet battle, is the evidence of calling. It's the sound of destiny knocking from the inside out. And heaven is whispering, do not run from it. When God sets His hand upon someone, He begins to separate them from everything that dilutes their purpose. Sometimes it looks like loss. Sometimes it feels like abandonment. But what you call heartbreak, heaven calls pruning. The divine process always removes before it reveals. And though it hurts, it's necessary. Because if you carried everyone and everything into your next season, it would crush you. You are carrying a holy assignment. That's why the warfare around your life has been relentless. It wasn't random. It was recognition. Darkness saw your potential before you did. Every attack that tried to silence you was actually confirming what you carry. The enemy only fights what threatens him. You have always been a threat. You wonder why your sensitivity is so strong, why you feel things so deeply, why you can't just move on like others. It's because your spirit is tuned differently. You were designed to discern, to feel, to intercede. Your tears have been prayers. Your silence has been intercession. You are not weak, you are chosen. and heaven trusts you with what others can't handle. But this calling is not light. It will cost you comfort, popularity, and sometimes understanding. You will have to walk through seasons where no one applauds, where no one sees the sacrifice. But even there, God watches, even in obscurity. Your obedience speaks loudly in heaven. Every yes whispered in private becomes thunder in the spirit. When the world tells you to be like everyone else, remember, you were never meant to blend in. Your distinction is divine. The very thing that makes you feel different is the evidence of destiny. Stop despising it. Stop trying to hide it. What sets you apart is what sets you above the storm. You carry a light that exposes hidden things. You carry truth that unsettles lies. That is why some people distance themselves from you. They cannot stand the conviction your presence carries. But don't shrink to keep them comfortable. The same fire that makes others uncomfortable is the fire that will guide nations. You may not see the full picture yet, but heaven does. Every hidden season, every delay, every disappointment has been shaping your character. Before God trusts you with influence, He builds integrity. Before He places you in public, He purifies you in private. And though that process is painful, it's producing something eternal inside you: unshakable strength, unwavering faith, and pure devotion. The Word of God declares in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Those words are not poetry, they are identity. They are the reminder that you were chosen before time and marked for divine purpose. You were never a coincidence. You were never an afterthought. Every breath you take is proof that heaven still has work for you to do. So walk with confidence, even when you can't see the outcome. Heaven is not finished with you. The weight you feel is holy. The path you walk is sacred. And though it is narrow, it leads straight into glory. You are chosen, and that means your life is not ordinary. It is an instrument of divine design, and heaven is waiting to see how boldly you will carry it. So, lift your head high, even in the storm. Heaven has not abandoned you, it is watching to see you rise, refined, fearless, and fully awake. You were never meant to survive quietly. You were meant to reign boldly. Step forward, your anointing was never accidental. And your obedience will unlock generations. You have fought battles no one saw, the ones that left you bleeding in silence, yet smiling in public. The nights when you couldn't pray, but still refused to let go. You've walked through seasons that tried to bury your faith, but somehow you kept standing. That strength was not human, it was divine. It was the proof that God never left. Even when you felt alone, every tear you cried was noticed. Every moment you whispered, "God, are you still there?" Heaven responded with quiet protection. You thought your silence was wasted, but it was sacred. You were being trained in stillness. The pain was never punishment, it was preparation. God allowed you to wrestle, not to break you, but to build endurance. Some people looked at your struggle and assumed you were losing, but they didn't see the angels that stood beside you. They didn't see the times grace carried you when your strength was gone. You didn't just survive, you were refined. You became stronger, sharper, more aware. And though the world saw scars, heaven saw proof of loyalty. It's easy to believe that pain disqualifies you, but in the kingdom, Pain is the proof that you've been chosen for something higher. You carry marks that no crown can hide. Every scar is a signature of survival evidence that you didn't quit when you could have. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness. You've already been through what was meant to destroy you, and you're still here. That's not weakness, that's warfare victory. You often wonder why life has been so heavy, why you've had to fight harder than others just to stand. It's because your assignment is heavier. God trusted you with battles that would have crushed another. The anointing you carry requires resilience. The light you hold threatens hell itself. Every time you rise again, it reminds darkness that you cannot be defeated because you were never fighting alone. There are moments when the silence from heaven feels unbearable, when prayers seem unanswered and faith feels like an echo in an empty room. Yet, even there, God is near. He hides not to abandon you, but to deepen your discernment. The silence teaches you to hear his whisper, not his volume. The struggle teaches you to rely on his presence, not his patterns. As it is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 19, "Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all." That is your reminder. You may have many afflictions, but you will also have many victories. God did not promise a painless path. He promised his presence in every valley. You were never meant to avoid the fire. You were meant to walk through it without being consumed. That's how heaven proves who you really are. Your pain is the birthplace of power. The same hands that allowed the storm are the hands that will lift you out of it. You're being transformed by everything you thought would destroy you. What felt like breaking is actually birthing. You are stepping into the season where your scars will speak louder than your words. Do not resent your story. Do not despise the chapters that made you cry. Those were the very pages that built your authority. People may not understand how you survived, but they will soon see why you had to. Your journey will become someone else's roadmap out of darkness. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a carrier of revelation. Now, pause for a moment. Feel that pull in your chest, the one that says this message is speaking directly to you. That is the Holy Spirit confirming that your pain has purpose. Don't rush past it. Let it sink deep. Heaven is rewriting your perspective on every battle you've faced. And when you're ready, write this in the comments, "I won't break." Say it as a declaration of faith, not defiance. Because what was designed to destroy you has failed. You didn't crumble under the weight, you've become stronger through it. When you comment those 3 words, you're testifying that the fire refined you but didn't consume you, that the warfare shaped you but didn't silence you. Heaven reads that declaration as a vow of endurance, your promise that no matter how fierce the battle gets, you will not give up. You've survived what others didn't. You've risen from places that should have buried you. And now, heaven says, it's time to stop surviving and start reigning. The battle has shaped you for the blessing that's coming next. Your strength is not in your perfection, it's in your perseverance. And that perseverance is the sign of a chosen one who refuses to break. When you write, "I won't break," you are not just commenting, you're prophesying over your own soul, commanding strength to rise where weakness once spoke. Those 3 words are armor. They declare that your faith is unshakable, your calling unbreakable, and your future unchangeable. Heaven hears and stands behind them. You didn't choose the war that found you. It came for you the moment heaven marked your life with purpose. Before you could understand why things seemed harder for you than for others, Darkness had already recognized your anointing. You were targeted early because of what you carry. The enemy saw the evidence of divine favor, even when you couldn't see it yourself. There are battles that seem unfair, seasons that make you question why your peace had to be the price of your calling. Yet those very conflicts were confirmation. Every attack you faced revealed something hell feared about your future. You may have thought you were under random pressure, but in truth, you were being tested like gold in fire. The resistance was never about your weakness, it was about your potential. In every story of the chosen, there comes a moment when war knocks at the door. Moses faced Pharaoh. David faced Goliath. Esther faced a decree of death. And you are facing the battle for your destiny. The enemy has studied your line, your habits, your fears. He knows that if you ever realize who you are, his influence collapses. That's why he attacks your identity before your purpose. He whispers lies designed to make you doubt your worth. He distorts truth until you forget what God said about you. And when that doesn't work, he uses weariness, not destruction, delay. He wants you to get so tired that you stop believing the promise will come. But what he doesn't understand is that weariness in a warrior does not mean surrender. It means transformation. Every time you refuse to give up, your spirit grows stronger than before. There is a spiritual law at work in your struggle. The greater the opposition, the greater the oil that will flow from your life. The pain you've endured is pressing you into power. The tears you've shed are watering the ground where your next victory will rise. The enemy thought the storm would drown you, but heaven used it to teach you how to walk on waves. Even now, invisible warfare surrounds your obedience. The enemy fears your awakening because an awakened believer becomes a weapon. Your prayer shifts atmospheres. Your worship shakes foundations. Every act of faith you take in private resounds in the unseen realm. That's why you've felt the pushback. It's the sign that your spirit has become a threat. The Word of God reminds us in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." That promise is not passive, it's power disguised as peace. God is not asking you to do nothing, He's asking you to trust Him completely. While you fight to understand, He is already fighting for your victory. While you feel surrounded, heaven has already surrounded your enemies. You are not losing, you are being positioned for revelation. Sometimes the war outside mirrors the one inside. You fight thoughts that whisper defeat, memories that replay mistakes, fears that scream, "You're not enough." But faith is forged in those internal wars. God allows them so that your trust matures from emotional to eternal. When you choose to believe, even when you don't feel it, your faith becomes unbreakable. Every giant you face carries a secret. It is the announcement of new territory. Giants only appear when you are standing at the edge of breakthrough. Don't let their size intimidate you. Let it inform you of your significance. Hell does not send opposition to the insignificant. It only rises against what carries destiny. So breathe. You are not under attack because you're cursed. You're under attack because you're crowned. You are standing on the threshold of a shift. The noise, the confusion, the delays, these are signs of transition. Heaven is rearranging things to align you with purpose. You may not see it yet, but every battle has meaning. The storm you're in is shaping you into someone hell can no longer intimidate. The pressure is not punishment, it's proof that you're almost there. When the heat intensifies, remember, gold is closest to its purest form right before the fire ends. You are not fragile, you are forged. Every weapon that rose against you will regret being formed. The war you didn't choose will become the testimony you were born to carry. And when the dust settles, you will not just be standing, you will be shining. The storm was never meant to end you. It was meant to expose the warrior sleeping inside you. You have emerged scarred but stronger, broken open, yet beautifully rebuilt. Your endurance has become your prophecy. What tried to silence you has become your song. The same fire that once burned you now burns within you. Unstoppable, undeniable, divine. Heaven watches as you rise, not as the wounded but as the weapon. You have become proof that light always wins, and chosen ones never fall. There comes a moment when running is no longer possible, when the noise quiets, the pretending fades, and you finally face what heaven has been whispering all along. You are called. The battle wasn't random. The silence wasn't neglect. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every lonely night was divine design. It was God training your heart to recognize His voice when it mattered most. Now that moment has come. You can feel it, a sacred stirring, a gentle pull that says, "Don't run this time." Heaven is not asking for perfection, it's asking for surrender. You've spent enough time fighting what was meant to free you. The weight you've carried wasn't meant to crush you, it was meant to wake you. When God calls, He doesn't shout, He stirs. He moves quietly, with intention, inside the soul. His voice is not found in thunder or earthquake, but in a whisper that pierces deeper than sound. That's what you feel now, the echo of eternity knocking on the door of your will. The Spirit says, "Stop resisting the light that's trying to find you." You've prayed for peace, but peace can't live where obedience hasn't begun. You've asked for direction, but heaven won't speak again until you act on what was already said. Sometimes God doesn't give new instructions because He's still waiting on your first yes. You've walked long enough, carrying both faith and fear, destiny and doubt. But this is the moment where you decide which will define you. No one can choose for you, not prophets, not friends, not even time. Heaven gives you the dignity of choice because love never forces it, invites. It is written in the scroll of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 15, "Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." That scripture isn't a threat, it's a love letter. It reminds you that destiny begins where decision is made. The divine doesn't demand, it beckons. And right now, heaven is extending its hand again, not to control you, but to guide you into the life you were always meant to live. Maybe this is the part where everything inside you trembles. Maybe you've said yes before and were hurt. Maybe you're afraid that surrender means losing yourself. But the truth is, surrender is how you finally find yourself. You don't lose identity in God, you discover it. You don't lose control, you gain peace. You don't lose freedom, you find the kind that never fades. Imagine this moment as a quiet field after a storm. The clouds have cleared. The air smells like beginnings. And in that stillness, heaven waits not impatiently, but tenderly. The choice is yours. You can keep scrolling, keep pretending this message was coincidence, or you can stop, breathe, and let grace find you again. This isn't pressure, it's invitation. When you decide to open your heart to what you feel stirring now, you're not joining a religion, you're stepping into restoration. You're saying yes to healing, yes to purpose. Yes, to becoming the version of you that pain tried to bury. And as you make that decision in the quiet of your heart, let it be your private worship, a whisper that says, "I'm ready to return." If these words reach you, and something inside you knows they're meant for you, then let your response be gentle yet bold. Maybe it looks like a quiet nod, a deep breath, or even something small, a symbolic act of acknowledgement. Maybe you like this message, not to perform, but to let your soul say, "This truth touched me." Maybe you share it, like a lantern passed from one trembling hand to another in the dark, carrying hope across the distance. And maybe you subscribe, not to follow a voice, but to stay close to the current of grace that keeps drawing you back home. Whatever you choose, let it be beautiful. Let it be genuine. Let it come from the place where your spirit finally exhales. This is not about obligation, it's about connection. It's about standing under heaven's open sky and whispering, "I choose the light." The wind shifts. The old weight lifts. Grace moves toward you like dawn spilling over the horizon. Heaven smiles because it knows something sacred just awakened inside you. You didn't find this message by chance. But now, you have found yourself in it. The wind that once carried your fears now carries your faith. Every breath you take declares rebirth. Heaven's melody hums through your heartbeat, soft, steady, victorious, alive. Your surrender paints light across unseen skies. The stars remember your yes. The universe bends toward obedience, echoing your courage as creation breathes in agreement with heaven's will. Grace dances where pain once lived. The battlefield becomes a garden, and every scar now blooms with glory. You are no longer running, you are returning home. There is a trembling in the spirit tonight. Something unseen is shifting, as if heaven itself leans closer to whisper, "Do not delay." This is not a message for the curious, it's for the ones who know they've been avoiding their assignment. You've felt the stirring before. You've heard the voice telling you to move, to obey, to trust, but hesitation has kept you bound. You tell yourself you're waiting for confirmation, for a perfect sign. But deep down, you already know. You've known for months, maybe years. Heaven doesn't repeat instructions out of impatience, it repeats them out of mercy. Yet mercy, once ignored too long, begins to sound like warning. Delay has a spiritual cost. Every moment you postpone obedience, something in your destiny pauses too. The doors meant for you stand open, but they cannot remain open forever. Grace waits, but not endlessly. There comes a time when God stops repeating himself, not in anger, but because his next move requires your movement. You've said, "I'm not ready." But readiness doesn't come before obedience, it comes after it. The moment you step, strength appears. The moment you say yes, provision finds you. Heaven doesn't need you to be perfect, it needs you to be willing. Sometimes the greatest enemy of your calling isn't fear, it's comfort. The place that feels safe can also be the place that suffocates you. You weren't designed to stay where you are forever. You are meant to walk by faith, to move even when the ground hasn't appeared yet. That's how chosen ones live, not by sight, but by surrender. As the Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 7, verse 23, "Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people, and walk in all the ways that I have commanded you." Those words still burn with urgency. They are not a distant command, they are a divine heartbeat. God doesn't ask for obedience to control you. He asks because He wants to trust you with greater things. Your obedience becomes the language of heaven. Every yes you give writes new sentences in the story of your purpose. You have felt the pull, the quiet conviction in your spirit that says, "This is your time." You have also felt the resistance, the voice of fear, the opinions of others, the logic that tells you to wait. But logic cannot carry faith. The walk of the chosen was never meant to make sense. It was meant to make history. Heaven has already prepared what you are afraid to step into. The details you worry about, the provision, the timing, the support are already written. God simply waits for your agreement. The bridge will not appear until you take the first step. That's the paradox of faith. It feels like falling, but it's really flying. This is your reminder. Obedience delayed is destiny denied. If you've been hearing the same instruction over and over, it's because heaven refuses to let you settle for less. You've cried for breakthrough. But breakthrough begins with movement. The door you've been praying about will only open when you push. You cannot afford to postpone what heaven has prepared. Too many promises are attached to your obedience. Too many souls are waiting on your yes. The longer you delay, the longer creation groans for the sound of your awakening. Tonight, don't analyze, respond. Don't overthink, obey. You already know what God is asking of you, whether it's forgiveness, surrender, or faith. Your spirit has heard it clearly. The hesitation you feel is not confusion, it's conviction asking for expression. This is your defining moment. The angels assigned to your destiny are ready. The atmosphere is charged with purpose. Heaven is watching, not with judgment, but with expectation. Will you move? Or will you wait until mercy grows silent? If this word pierces through your hesitation, seal your agreement with a prophetic act. Type this number below: 888. It is the number of new beginnings, a symbol that you are choosing obedience over delay. When you write it, you're not just typing, you're testifying that you will no longer linger between calling and comfort. Let heaven see your decision. Let the unseen world witness your courage. Every time you choose obedience, you shorten the distance between promise and fulfillment. Every time you respond in faith, you awaken something eternal inside you. Do not play with this moment. Obedience is not loss, it's transformation. What you release in faith, God multiplies in eternity. What you give up in surrender, He restores with glory. So take a deep breath. Chosen one, step forward. Say yes. Move now. When you type 888, you are declaring to heaven, I choose to begin again. Those numbers become your covenant, your visible yes to an invisible command. A seed of obedience. Every digit carries weight. 888 speaks to resurrection, to cycles broken and stories reborn. It tells heaven you're ready for renewal, for purpose revived, for faith restored beyond fear. Distraction is the most subtle weapon in the enemy's arsenal. It rarely announces itself as evil. It wears the disguise of busyness, the smile of comfort, the voice of reason. It doesn't tell you to rebel, it simply whispers. Later, that single word has stolen more destinies than open sin ever could. You were born with a specific rhythm, a divine tempo in your spirit. But distraction interrupts that rhythm, making you move to a song that isn't yours. It's not always loud, it can be soft, sweet, even logical. It convinces you that scrolling for a few more minutes, staying one more season, delaying one more decision is harmless. Yet each delay slowly drains your fire. The danger is that distraction feels safe. It feels productive even when it isn't. You tell yourself, "I'm just resting." But rest without purpose becomes spiritual sleep. You say, "I'm thinking it through." But overthinking is the enemy's favorite form of procrastination. The truth is, distraction is not about wasting time, it's about stealing focus. And what loses your focus will eventually lose your future. It was written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 25. Let your eyes look straight ahead, fix your gaze directly before you. That verse isn't about eyesight, it's about direction. Your eyes determine your path. Where your focus goes, your faith follows. When you stare too long at what doesn't matter, what does matter begins to fade. The enemy knows he can't destroy you if he can distract you. So he sends noise, constant, endless noise to drown out divine instruction. You've noticed it the way your days blur together. The constant pull to keep moving, keep consuming, keep comparing. The mind becomes a battlefield, cluttered with voices that sound good but aren't God. You start with passion and end with exhaustion. Not because you're doing evil, but because you're doing everything except what you were meant to do. Distraction doesn't always remove your calling, it dilutes it. It keeps you busy but unfruitful, moving but not progressing. You might be surrounded by opportunities, yet miss your divine assignment because you're scattered. That's why heaven sometimes allows isolation to reset your focus, to quiet the noise long enough for you to hear again. Every distraction demands energy. Every misplaced attention drains strength from your purpose. That's why you feel tired even when you've done nothing physically demanding. Your spirit is exhausted from chasing everything except what it was born to pursue. You were created for clarity. When you walk in divine focus, time expands. What once took years becomes possible in months. God multiplies your effort when your attention is aligned with His will. That's why the enemy works so hard to scatter your thoughts, because a distracted believer is a disarmed one. Think about it, even small distractions can derail destiny. Samson lost his strength not through battle, but through divided attention. Peter began to sink not because the storm was stronger, but because his focus shifted from Jesus to the waves. The moment you look away from the purpose that birthed you, you start losing sight of who you are. But here is hope. The same God who called you can restore your focus. He knows how to silence the noise and bring you back to center. You don't need to fight every distraction. You just need to return your gaze. Every time you redirect your focus to God, you reclaim the ground distraction stole. This is your reminder that not everything demanding your attention deserves it. Some things look urgent but are spiritually irrelevant. The enemy wants you to chase shadows while your true calling waits in the light. But heaven is calling you back to stillness, to priority, to the peace that focus brings. You don't have to do more, you just have to do what matters. You don't have to run faster, you have to run straighter. Every yes to distraction is a silent no to destiny. Every moment you reclaim is a victory against delay. So today, examine your attention. What consumes your thoughts? What steals your peace? What looks harmless but slowly erodes your hunger for the things of God? Awareness is the first act of warfare. Once you recognize the enemy's tactic, you disarm it. Lift your eyes again. The path is still there. The purpose hasn't expired. Heaven hasn't withdrawn your assignment. It's waiting for you to refocus. You have not fallen too far. You've simply been looking the wrong way. Turn your gaze back toward the voice that called you. Focus will return, and with it, the fire you thought you lost. Distraction fades when divine hunger rises. The more you feed your spirit, the quieter the noise becomes. Focus is worship. It tells heaven that God has your full attention again. Your clarity returns like sunrise over still waters. Every reflection sharpens. Every moment feels sacred. You finally remember purpose was never lost, only waiting for your eyes. Heaven celebrates the quiet victory inside you. Angels record your refocus as warfare won. The storm ends, not with thunder, but with the sound of you seeing clearly again. Lukewarmness is the quiet decay of the soul. It doesn't arrive suddenly. It seeps in slowly, like water soaking into stone, softening conviction until passion feels optional. You don't notice it at first. The prayers become shorter, the worship quieter, the hunger less frequent. You tell yourself it's balance, maturity, wisdom. But deep down, you know the fire isn't gone, just buried beneath layers of indifference. The danger of lukewarmness is not that it rejects God, but that it replaces him with comfort. It says, "I believe," but lives as if belief requires nothing. It sings about surrender while keeping control. It honors God with words but withholds the heart. And heaven weeps, not because you failed, but because you settled. We are reminded in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 16, "Because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." Those words sound harsh, but they are holy love in disguise. God isn't angry at your humanity. He is jealous for your devotion. He knows that half-hearted faith can't withstand whole storms. Lukewarm faith burns out in the dark, but passionate faith ignites even under pressure. You can't mix holy fire with compromise. The two cannot coexist. One will always silence the other. When you try to live between surrender and self-preservation, peace becomes impossible. The soul was never built for double allegiance. That's why you feel torn. The fire inside you knows it was meant to burn, not flicker. Lukewarmness dulls discernment. It convinces you that small sins don't matter, that delayed obedience is harmless, that passion is only for beginners. It's the slow fading of spiritual sensitivity until conviction feels inconvenient. You begin to tolerate what once broke your heart. You start calling normal what heaven calls dangerous. It doesn't happen in a single moment. It's the quiet exchange of eternity for ease. The compromise starts small, skipping prayer for one day, silencing the nudge of the Spirit, letting entertainment replace encounter. And before you know it, the flame that once terrified darkness is barely glowing. But the miracle of grace is this: no matter how faint the fire, it can still be reignited. Heaven never abandons a smoldering wick. The Spirit still hovers over ashes, waiting for breath to spark flame again. You don't need to start over, you need to stir again. When was the last time you felt that trembling urgency in prayer? When your heart raced because the presence of God filled the room? That passion wasn't a phase, it was your design. You were created to burn with holy fire, not survive on routine religion. Heaven is not asking for perfection, it's asking for passion. It's asking for your undivided heart. God doesn't want a portion of you, He wants the whole flame. Because when you burn, others find light in your fire. When you live with conviction, even silence becomes a sermon. The world doesn't need more polite faith, it needs pure fire. The kind that doesn't blend with culture. The kind that doesn't dim when criticized. The kind that stays standing even when the crowd bows. You were never meant to be lukewarm, you were meant to be radiant. Look back at the moments when your heart burned for Him. The seasons when you couldn't stop talking about His goodness. When tears fell easily in worship. That wasn't emotion, that was encounter. You didn't lose it, you stopped feeding it. Every fire requires fuel. Prayer, worship, obedience. These are the logs that keep your flame alive. Maybe your fire has been buried under disappointment or exhaustion. Maybe you've been hurt by people who claimed faith but lacked love. Maybe you're tired of fighting battles that don't seem to end. But hear this, your weariness doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you for renewal. The ones most weary are often the ones God revives first. The Holy Spirit is still near, still waiting, still whispering. Come back to the flame. You don't have to beg for revival, you just have to breathe toward it. Even the smallest spark becomes wildfire when surrendered to divine breath. So breathe now. Remember who you were before life made you cautious. Remember the power you felt when faith was simple, when love was fierce. That version of you still exists beneath the ashes. The flame still lives. You are not too far gone to burn again. You are not too cold to be rekindled. The fire hasn't left, it's waiting to rise. The ember inside you remembers heaven's touch. Every spark is a memory of Eden calling you home. Let the wind of His presence breathe through your ashes until fire dances again. Soon your spirit will blaze brighter than before. This time, it won't flicker from emotion, but burn from revelation. You will become living proof that grace reignites what fear once dimmed. Your revival will not be loud, it will be luminous. Quiet strength glowing through obedience. Love reigniting through surrender, your life becoming the wildfire that lights forgotten hearts again. Conviction is not condemnation, it's compassion disguised as correction. It is heaven's way of saying, I still believe in you. When your heart starts to ache at the sound of truth, that's not guilt, it's grace. Conviction means God still sees you as teachable, still worthy of transformation, still chosen for redemption. There are two kinds of silence, the silence of absence and the silence of presence. The first feels like emptiness, the second feels like awakening. When conviction hits, you stand in the second kind of silence, the one where heaven hovers close, waiting for your next move. You've felt it before, that sudden stillness when a verse, a voice, or a memory pierces your heart. You didn't plan for it, yet it found you. That's how God speaks when He wants your full attention. He interrupts your comfort to realign your soul. We are told in the book of Psalms, chapter 32, verse 8, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Conviction is God's instruction wrapped in tenderness. It's the voice of a father saying, you're better than this path. It's His way of steering you away from danger before you even realize the cliff is near. When you ignore conviction, you silence your greatest protection. When you respond, you unlock restoration. So, when your heart burns as you listen, don't push it away. That warmth, That stirring is heaven drawing near. Conviction doesn't come to shame you, it comes to remind you that you still belong. Shame says you've failed too much. Conviction says you're still worth saving. You might think, why does God keep confronting me with the same truth? It's because He refuses to let you drift. Love does not watch you drown quietly, it reaches into the water again and again. Conviction is proof that God is still reaching. Every time you feel that tug, you are standing at a divine crossroads. One path leads to numbness, the other to renewal. Heaven doesn't want your performance, it wants your permission. If you let conviction do its work, it will heal what religion only hides. This is how grace moves. It doesn't humiliate you, it invites you. It doesn't demand perfection, it awakens purity. Conviction isn't punishment, it's preparation for promotion. The weight you feel isn't rejection, it's responsibility being reborn. Sometimes conviction comes softly, through a whisper that says, "Don't go there." Other times, it crashes like thunder because your spirit has been asleep too long. Both are mercy. Both are love. When heaven stops convicting, that's when you should fear, not when it does. You are not hearing this by coincidence. This is heaven's gentle alarm reminding you that your heart still responds. Your conscience still breathes. The fire of conviction is proof that you're alive in spirit. So, instead of running from it, let conviction finish its work. Let it melt what grew cold. Let it rebuild what you buried. There's a version of you on the other side of obedience, stronger, cleaner, freer. If your spirit trembles as you hear this, and something inside whispers, "This is for me," then let your response be an act of humility and alignment. Write this below, "I return." Those two words are more than a comment, they are a homecoming. When you write, "I return," you are telling heaven, "I am done running. I am coming back to the truth that heals me." You are declaring that conviction has done its work, that you're ready for restoration instead of rebellion. That phrase becomes your bridge, your quiet yes that angels recognize as repentance and renewal. The voice that convicts is the same voice that heals. The same hand that exposes is the one that embraces. Don't resist it, receive it. Because conviction is not the end of grace, it's the beginning of glory. When you write, "I return," heaven takes notice. Those two words echo through eternity as a declaration of surrender. They are not typed from fingers alone, but from the heart that finally stops running. I return means you are stepping out of shame and walking back into grace. It means you recognize that conviction was never about punishment, it was a rescue mission. You are saying, "God, I remember who I am again." Every letter becomes light, guiding you home. And as you write it, something unseen begins to shift. Chains of regret fall quietly. The distance between you and peace collapses. Heaven reads your words like poetry, redemption, written in present tense. You are no longer the one who wandered, you are the one who returned. The Father has already opened his arms, whispering, "Welcome back, my child." Grace gathers the fragments you thought were lost. Every broken piece glows again under divine light, proving nothing was wasted, only waiting for your return to breathe again. Heaven's joy overflows as you rise renewed. The angels rejoice. The past releases, and your soul finally rests where mercy has always been calling. Purity is not perfection, it's alignment. It is the art of allowing your heart to mirror heaven again. to live from the place where motives are clean and love is holy. Purity is not the absence of mistakes, it's the presence of continual surrender. It's when you stop performing for approval and start walking in truth. You were created to carry power, but heaven never releases power into unprepared hands. Purity is the process that prepares you. It refines not just your actions, but your intentions. It separates what looks right from what is right. The world rewards results, but heaven rewards integrity. What you build without purity will crumble under pressure, but what you build with a clean heart will stand forever. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 24, verse 4. The one who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not trust in an idol or swear by a false god. That verse doesn't describe perfection, it describes pursuit. A clean heart is one that keeps returning to the source even after it stumbles. It keeps choosing light when darkness offers shortcuts. Purity is not a rule, it's a rhythm, the rhythm of repentance, humility, and unwavering love. God doesn't call you to purity because He wants to restrict you. He calls you to it because He wants to trust you. Power without purity corrupts, but purity invites divine partnership. When your motives align with heaven's mission, your life becomes a conduit of glory, a vessel that carries peace wherever it goes. There's a reason your spirit has been restless lately. You've outgrown the noise. You've outgrown the shallow pleasures that once distracted you. Something inside you knows it's time to live differently. You can no longer be satisfied with imitation fire when real flame is calling your name. To walk in purity is to remember who you are. You are not defined by what you've done or what they said. You are defined by the breath of God that still fills your lungs. That breath makes you sacred. That breath makes you enough. But purity will always cost you comfort. It will ask you to leave rooms that no longer carry peace, to release habits that numb instead of heal, to say no when the world applauds compromise. And yet, every surrender becomes freedom in disguise. You lose what's fake to gain what's eternal. Imagine your heart as a mirror. Over time, life leaves smudges, disappointments, guilt, shame, fear. But the Holy Spirit moves like gentle hands, wiping away every layer until your reflection shines again. You start to see yourself as heaven always did, radiant, chosen, untouchable by darkness. This journey toward purity is deeply personal. No one can force you into it, and no one can fake it for long. It's something sacred between you and God, a quiet yes that changes everything. And as that yes grows stronger, your power deepens. Purity is heaven's way of preparing you to carry influence without losing innocence. So here, in this still moment, let your heart breathe. Feel the peace that comes when you stop striving and simply surrender. The same God who purified Isaiah's lips with fire now purifies your soul with grace. You don't have to chase holiness, you have to allow it to find you. If this message touches something deep within you, let your response be gentle and real. Maybe you like it not as an act of routine, but as a silent nod to the truth that just found you. Maybe you share it not as a task, but as an offering, like passing a lit candle to another soul still walking through the dark. And maybe you subscribe not to follow a person, but to stay within the current of words that keep calling you back to light. These simple gestures are more than actions, they are echoes of your spirit saying, I want to stay in this presence a little longer. They are your way of holding the flame carefully. protecting it from the winds of distraction. Purity isn't something you achieve, it's something you nurture. It grows when you choose truth over comfort, forgiveness over pride, and consistency over chaos. You are not being asked to become perfect, you are being invited to become pure, to carry heaven with unfiltered authenticity. So, let the words settle, like rain cleansing your soul. You are not who you were yesterday. You are being restored into who you've always been: whole, chosen, and filled with purpose. Purity will make your life sound like worship, silent yet powerful, invisible yet radiant. Every decision becomes a note. Every surrender, a melody heaven recognizes as devotion. And in that sacred music, peace returns, the noise fades, the soul exhales, and you finally realize holiness was never distance, it was intimacy calling you home. The fire returns not to consume, but to commune. Every flicker becomes conversation, your spirit speaking the language of heaven, fluent in surrender, fluent in love. And as you burn again, darkness remembers your name, not in victory, but in fear, because what once silenced you now sets the world alight. There is a holy tension in the season of separation. It is not cruelty, it is clarity. When God begins to shift the landscape of your relationships, He is not punishing you, He is protecting purpose. You prayed for destiny, and heaven answered by dividing what could not stay connected. Separation feels like loss, but in truth, it is preparation. There are people who were necessary for your foundation, but not for your future. They helped build your faith, but they cannot handle your next level. God, in His mercy, removes what would limit you later. The same hand that adds blessings also subtracts distractions. Every departure you mourn may actually be divine deliverance in disguise. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Amos. Chapter 3, verse 3. Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? That question still echoes today. Alignment matters. Agreement births advancement. If the people around you don't share your values, your vision will eventually die from misdirection. You can't walk toward heaven while holding hands with those running from it. Destiny demands distinction. You have felt it, the quiet distance, the growing discomfort, the conversations that no longer flow. What once felt safe now feels small. That is not rejection, that is revelation. God is showing you that some relationships were seasonal. They served their purpose. But the season has shifted. Sometimes separation is God answering prayers you didn't know how to pray. You asked for peace, and He removed the person who disturbed it. You asked for focus, and He cleared the noise around you. You asked for purpose, and He separated you from those who blurred your vision. Heaven never subtracts without intent. But separation isn't only about people, it's also about patterns. There are habits, mindsets, and atmospheres that can't enter your next chapter. You can't carry old fear into new faith. You can't carry bitterness into blessing. God will often isolate you to detox your soul, to drain what poisoned your perspective. You may feel lonely, but you are not abandoned. You are being hidden. When a seed is buried, it looks like death, but it's actually development. God buries before He builds. He hides before He reveals. The isolation that aches today will become the elevation that amazes tomorrow. Every person destined for greatness has walked through a wilderness of separation. Abraham left his homeland. Joseph was sold away from his brothers. David was anointed in secret fields before he was crowned in public. Even Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray. Isolation is heaven's university. It teaches what comfort never could. This season will test your trust. You will want to run back to the familiar, to fix what's falling apart. But sometimes restoration is not God's plan, release is. Not every relationship deserves resurrection. Some doors must remain closed for peace to remain intact. God is not cruel when He closes hearts. He is kind. He sees what you can't. He hears conversations you're not in. He knows the motives that smile in your face but sabotage your calling. When He separates, it's surgical, precise, painful, but necessary to save your destiny. So, instead of asking, "Why did they leave?" ask, "What is God making space for?" Every subtraction makes room for new strength, new focus, new connection. Heaven removes to replace, but only with what aligns with your purpose. You are not being reduced, you are being refined. You are learning to stand without leaning, to listen without noise, to love without fear. That's the beauty of separation. It creates space for transformation. Soon, you'll look back and see how everything fit together. The ones who left made room for the ones who will last. The silence birthed clarity. The loneliness made space for intimacy with God. What you lost externally, you gained internally. This is the sacred paradox of the chosen. The more God elevates you, the fewer people can stand beside you. Not everyone can breathe at the altitude of your calling. But those who remain after the pruning, those who speak life, carry vision, and walk in faith will be worth every loss you endured. You're not being emptied, you're being entrusted. Separation is heaven's way of saying, you're ready for more. The space they left becomes sacred ground. What once echoed with absence now hums with destiny. God fills the gaps with His presence until solitude becomes sanctuary and silence becomes strength. Every tear you shed during separation waters the soil of your next season. From that pain, purpose blossoms quietly, beautifully, unshakably rooted in divine timing. And when new faces appear, you'll recognize them by peace, not popularity. They'll speak your language of purpose, carry the same fire, and walk beside you without resistance, proof that heaven never subtracts without multiplying. You will thank God for every goodbye that guided you here. The ache of separation will fade, replaced by gratitude for the pruning that made your destiny possible. Obedience is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, simple, unseen. It's not a moment of thunder, it's the whisper of surrender that says, "Yes, Lord," even when I don't understand. Heaven doesn't measure obedience by how loud it looks, but by how deep it roots. You've been in a tug of war between what feels safe and what feels sacred. You've told yourself you're waiting on God, but in truth, He's waiting on you. Obedience doesn't require complete clarity, just complete trust. Faith doesn't begin when you see the whole picture. It begins when you move without knowing the ending. You've prayed for doors to open, yet ignored the keys already in your hand. Heaven will not force you into purpose. It invites you to step into it. Obedience is the bridge between promise and fulfillment. Every miracle in Scripture was preceded by someone's yes, as Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 11, verse 28. Blessed rather are those who hear the word of God and obey it. Blessing doesn't chase talent, it chases obedience. You can sing, lead, build, or dream. But if obedience is absent, fruitfulness will fade. God does not reward performance, He honors surrender. He cannot bless disobedience, no matter how passionate it looks. Sometimes obedience means walking away from what you once begged to have. Sometimes it means forgiving before the apology, trusting before the outcome, moving before the confirmation. That's what makes obedience costly. It requires faith that feels foolish and courage that feels painful. Every act of obedience is a seed. You may not see its harvest immediately, but heaven keeps record. The moments you said yes in secret will echo in eternity. The times you obeyed quietly, when no one noticed, will shout in heaven's reward. The hardest obedience is not external, it's internal. Forgiving when bitterness feels justified, waiting when impatience screams loud, remaining kind when misunderstood. That's where true obedience lives, in the hidden places where no one claps but God still watches. Disobedience delays destiny. It doesn't cancel it, but it stretches the journey unnecessarily. Jonah ran from instruction and found himself in the storm he was trying to avoid. But even there, God's mercy chased him. You can't outrun divine instruction. You can only delay its fulfillment. There's something powerful about immediate obedience, when you move the moment God speaks. Heaven accelerates what was once stagnant. Delayed obedience is still disobedience, dressed in hesitation. If your heart has been wrestling with something God asked of you, start now. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to respond. Heaven supplies strength to those who move, not to those who merely intend to. You are one act of obedience away from breakthrough. The miracle you've been praying for may be waiting on your yes. God's promises are not waiting for His decision, they're waiting for your participation. Even now, the Spirit whispers gently, move while the window is open. Opportunity in the kingdom is often time-sensitive. What you postpone today may not still be available tomorrow. So, don't analyze this moment, answer it. Don't overthink what God has already confirmed. The safest place in the world isn't comfort, it's obedience. The path may feel uncertain, but the presence will walk with you. If this message burns in your heart, if something in your spirit says, "This is my word," then mark this moment before heaven. Comment the number 444 below. It is the number of alignment and divine order, a symbol that you are ready to walk in step with heaven again. When you write 444, you're not typing digits, you're declaring direction. You're saying, "Lord, I align my will with yours." You're setting your soul back into sync with divine rhythm. Those numbers become your covenant, your visible yes to an invisible calling. This is not pressure, it's partnership. God doesn't force obedience, He invites it. But when you respond, heaven begins to move things you didn't even know were stuck. Every wall starts to loosen. Every delay begins to tremble. Because obedience always breaks barriers. You are standing in a sacred intersection between calling and completion. The next move is yours. Will you obey while the whisper is still soft? Or will you wait until the shaking begins? Choose obedience now, quiet, willing, and immediate. Because every yes in this moment echoes forever. When you type 444, you're doing more than responding, you're realigning. Those numbers are your silent prayer. saying, I choose order over chaos, purpose over hesitation. Heaven reads obedience even in symbols. Each digit stands for divine structure: Father, Son, Spirit working together to guide your steps. 444 becomes the echo of heaven's rhythm in your own heartbeat, reminding you that obedience restores harmony where confusion once ruled. As you write it, imagine heaven recording your yes like a melody rising above time. Angels take note. Doors adjust. Timing aligns. In that moment, your small act becomes sacred, a whisper of obedience loud enough for eternity to remember. Fire has always been heaven's chosen language for transformation. It consumes, refines, and reveals. The trials you faced are not punishments, they are the flames that forge your faith. You prayed for strength, and God sent you fire. Because true strength is not built in comfort, but in confrontation. You've walked through seasons that scorched your soul, times when you questioned if anything good could survive the heat. But what you didn't see was what the fire was removing: fear, pride, insecurity, and every false identity you built for protection. God wasn't trying to destroy you. He was burning away what was never you to begin with. As spoken in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9, I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. That verse holds both promise and pain. Refinement is never gentle, but it is always intentional. God allows fire to prove what can't be shaken. Every flame that touched you was a teacher. It showed you who you are, what you carry, and what can no longer come with you. You see, refinement is love disguised as pressure. When God tests your heart, He's not looking for failure. He's revealing foundation. He wants you to know that you can stand even when everything else falls. The fire doesn't define you, it verifies you. It separates imitation from authenticity, appearance from essence, emotion from conviction. There are seasons when you beg for relief, asking heaven to quench the fire. But relief without refinement would leave you fragile. You'd emerge unready for the weight of your purpose. The same heat that feels unbearable now will one day become the strength that sustains you. You're being shaped for permanence. Temporary pain produces eternal power. Every tear you cried in the furnace has meaning. Every night you thought was wasted has become sacred ground for divine exchange. Suffering is not your identity, it's your initiation. You are graduating from survival into glory. Think about gold in a fire. At first, it resists the heat, trembling and changing shape. But as the flames rise, impurities surface. They aren't new, they were always there, hidden beneath the shine. The fire doesn't create weakness, it exposes it, so that strength can remain. The same is true for you. The trial didn't create your brokenness, it revealed it so healing could begin. The flame that frightened you was actually the hand of a father cleaning the metal of your soul. You have mistaken the smoke for destruction, but it's the sign of purification. Fire always leaves evidence: ash, glow, warmth, and those who endure it never look the same. That's why you feel different now, lighter, clearer, stronger. You've been through something sacred. There's a version of you that only the fire could unlock. The one who trusts faster, forgives quicker, prays deeper. Pain has taught you perspective. Suffering has sharpened your sensitivity to the spirit. You've learned to recognize God not just in blessing, but in burning. And yet, the miracle of grace is that you don't smell like the fire you came through. What should have consumed you has only refined you. What should have ended you has equipped you. You carry the fragrance of endurance, the aroma of resilience, the mark of someone who walked through hell and found heaven waiting on the other side. Fire purifies, but it also prepares. Every time you withstand the flames, heaven expands your capacity. You're no longer easily broken or swayed. You've learned to praise with ashes on your face and hope still in your hands. That is the beauty of the refined. Nothing can make them ordinary again. So, if you find yourself in the heat again, don't panic. Remember the last time you thought it would destroy you, and yet, here you are, glowing with glory. The same God who walked with you through the last fire will walk with you through this one. This season isn't about what you're losing, it's about what's being revealed. You are not perishing, you are being purified. Every flame is a chapter in your transformation story. And soon, what once burned, you will bow to you. The fire doesn't end, it evolves. What once felt like punishment now feels like purpose. You've learned that holy flames don't destroy destiny, they define it, marking you as untouchable by darkness. Each scar shines now, not with pain, but with proof. You've become gold, resilient, radiant, rare. Heaven trusts what's been tested, and your endurance is now your anointing. So stand within the glow. Let others see the light that survived the furnace. You are living evidence that even in fire, God is faithful, and the chosen never burn alone. The fire that once frightened you now bows to your faith. You walk through what once consumed you, carrying the calm of one who has already overcome. Every crown comes with a cross. Glory and suffering are never strangers. They walk hand in hand through every story heaven writes. The crown is what the world sees. The cross is what shapes you to carry it. Without the cross, the crown becomes decoration. With it, the crown becomes destiny. You've prayed for promotion, but promotion in the kingdom is always disguised as pressure. Before God lifts you up, He teaches you to kneel. Before He entrusts you with authority, He introduces you to adversity. That's not cruelty, it's calibration. The weight of the crown must be matched by the strength of your humility. It is written in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 24, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." That verse is not an invitation to suffering for suffering's sake. It's a call to endurance that refines character. The cross does not mean pain without purpose. It means purpose proven through pain. God does not hand crowns to those who run from fire. He gives them to those who endured faithfully through it. You are living proof of that endurance. Every hardship you've survived has become a thread in your royal robe. Each betrayal, each disappointment, each night of silent tears, it all wove strength into your spirit. You are wearing invisible evidence of resilience that only heaven can see. The cross and the crown are inseparable. The cross reveals your surrender. The crown reveals your reward. The cross humbles you. The crown honors you. One teaches dependence. The other displays dominion. Together, they tell the full story of redemption, a journey from pain into purpose, from ashes into beauty. You've asked why life has required so much of you, why the weight never seems to lift. Why your obedience seems to bring more battle than blessing? It's because you carry an uncommon calling. God cannot let you live lightly when your destiny is heavy. He trains you through trials because your authority must come with empathy. Every king in Scripture carried both a throne and a testimony. Joseph wore a crown but first carried the cross of rejection. Esther wore a crown but carried the cross of risk. David wore a crown but carried the cross of loneliness. Even Jesus, the King of Kings, wore his crown only after enduring his cross. You are in the same pattern. Heaven is building within you a strength that cannot be imitated, an authority that cannot be faked. The crushing you endured was never about cruelty, it was about capacity. Oil only flows when olives are pressed. Glory only manifests when the soul is surrendered. This is why you feel the constant tension between elevation and exhaustion. It's not punishment, it's proof that God is shaping a vessel that can carry glory without breaking. The cross teaches you to depend, to stay humble, to remember that every victory belongs to Him. The crown teaches you that obedience is never wasted and that endurance is never in vain. The world celebrates crowns but despises crosses. Yet heaven reverses that order. Heaven watches how you carry your cross long before it places a crown on your head. If you can stay faithful in hidden seasons, heaven will trust you with influence in open ones. So, don't despise the weight you're carrying right now. That pressure is producing glory that will outlast your pain. The cross you bear today will become the authority you walk in tomorrow. God is not breaking you down, He's building you up. One day, others will look at you and see only the crown, your grace, your peace, your strength, and they will never imagine the cross you carried to get there. But you will know. You'll smile quietly, remembering the nights when all you had was faith and fire. You'll remember how the weight almost crushed you, and yet somehow you're still standing stronger, gentler, holier. Every time you choose obedience over ease, forgiveness over revenge, patience over panic, you are shouldering your cross with dignity. And every time you do, heaven polishes your crown. The two are connected in ways the world will never understand. So, if the cross feels heavy today, don't drop it, don't curse it, carry it. Because the cross is not your punishment, it's your path to coronation. Every tear, every scar, every silent prayer is a jewel being placed in the crown that waits for you. You are not suffering in vain. You are being sculpted into the image of endurance. The cross you carry is shaping hands that can hold glory. And when heaven finally sets the crown upon your head, it will not feel foreign, it will feel familiar, because you were forged to wear it. The cross you carried becomes your crown's foundation. What once bent your shoulders now steadies your posture. You reign not from pride, but from purified surrender. Heaven calls your endurance beautiful. Every step beneath the weight was worship. Now glory fits you perfectly, crafted by pain, polished by patience, crowned by grace. This moment feels different because it is. The air around you holds weight, not of fear, but of awakening. Heaven is still whispering your name. And this time, you're listening with your whole heart. The fire has done its work. The silence has done its shaping. And now the Spirit says, stay awake. This is the final warning before the shaking begins, not a threat, but a mercy. When heaven sends reminders like this, it's because time is shifting. The world grows louder, distractions multiply, and hearts grow numb. But you you are being called to remain awake, to stand in clarity while others drift into sleep. The Apostle reminds us in his first letter to the Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 6, "So then, let us not be like others, who are asleep, but let us be awake and sober." Awake means aware, spiritually alert, sensitive to heaven's movement. To stay awake is to resist the lullaby of compromise. To remain sober is to guard your heart from the intoxication of comfort. The chosen cannot afford to drift. Your awareness is your weapon. You've come too far to fall asleep again. You've overcome too much to become casual now. This season demands focus, because the next will demand fire. Heaven has invested too much in you to let you fade into ordinary. But staying awake doesn't mean living in fear. It means living with purpose, knowing that every sunrise is an assignment, every conversation a chance to shine light, every breath another opportunity to carry truth. It means seeing with new eyes, hearing with new clarity, and walking with new conviction. You are no longer the one who watches from the sidelines. You are the one who carries the flame. When the world trembles, you will stand unshaken. When others lose hope, your voice will remind them that heaven still reigns. This is what it means to be chosen to burn without burning out. Now, as this message lingers in your chest, let it move you gently. No pressure, no fear. Just awareness that something holy is happening inside you. Maybe your response is quiet, an exhale that feels like surrender. Maybe it's a still tear, falling in peace. Or maybe it's a simple gesture, small but sacred. Perhaps you like this message, not as a reflex, but as a whisper of agreement, your way of saying, "This truth lives in me." Perhaps you share it, not to gain attention, but to extend light, like lighting another candle from your own flame, so that no corner remains in shadow. And maybe, just maybe, you subscribe, not to follow a voice, but to remain near a flow of words that remind your soul of what it already knows, that you are chosen, guided, and deeply loved. These are not digital acts. They are symbolic ones. Every tap, every share, every moment you linger here becomes part of a larger prayer, a declaration that you refuse to fall asleep again, that you choose awareness over apathy, connection over convenience, obedience over numbness. You are standing at the border between what was and what will be. Heaven leans close, watching, not with judgment, but with expectation. The flame in your spirit flickers with purpose. The atmosphere around you feels charged because your next decision carries weight. Will you carry the flame forward, or will you let it fade? If your spirit feels alive right now, that's confirmation. The message isn't just words, it's movement. It's heaven stirring the embers again, calling you to rise, to remember, to return. And if something within you stirs, if your spirit feels this word, like sunrise, breaking inside, leave a trace below. Write awake, not to perform, but to remember. That single word becomes a candle left burning in this sacred space, a sign to heaven and to yourself that your spirit remains alert, your flame unhidden. So pause, feel the pulse of destiny beating quietly beneath your ribs. That's heaven's rhythm calling you back to awareness. Let this moment become your gentle vow. You will not sleep again. You will not drift. You will walk awake, You don't need to say it loudly. You don't need to prove it to anyone. Just let it live in you. Let it breathe through your choices, your prayers, your persistence. For when heaven looks at you, it doesn't see failure or fatigue. It sees fire, the kind that endures, the kind that refuses to go out, the kind that keeps the world from going dark. Stay awake, chosen one. The dawn is near. The dawn won't rush you. It will wait until your spirit stands tall. Every breath you take from here becomes prophecy, morning light made human, alive with purpose. And when sunlight finally breaks, it won't just touch the earth, it will rise from within you. You are the horizon heaven has been painting toward. Peace is not the absence of battle, it is the posture of the soul within it. You have learned this truth the hard way. You've walked through chaos that tried to convince you peace was impossible, that storms were stronger than faith. But peace was never meant to depend on the weather. It was designed to live inside you, unshaken by wind or wave. When God gives peace, He does not calm the storm first, He calms you. Because if the storm outside you ends before the storm within you does, you will never be free. The kind of peace heaven offers isn't fragile, it's defiant. It stands tall in turmoil, smiling at thunder, whispering, "Even this is under His control." It was proclaimed in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 27. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." That peace is different. It is supernatural, crafted from eternity, not circumstance. It does not fade when life feels unfair. It does not break under pressure. It is the kind of peace that holds your heart together when everything else falls apart. You have seen what worldly peace looks like: temporary, conditional, fragile. It lasts only as long as people behave, money stays stable, or health feels secure. But divine peace does not depend on control, it depends on trust. It is rooted not in what happens, but in who remains. There were nights when your mind raced endlessly, when anxiety felt like a storm with no shore. But even there, the quiet whisper of peace was near. You didn't always recognize it. It came softly, like a small flame refusing to die. While your thoughts screamed, peace stayed. While your hope trembled, peace held. The peace of God is not passive, its power restrained. It's heaven's way of saying, "Nothing can touch what's mine." That's why peace terrifies the enemy. He thrives in confusion, feeds on fear, and weakens faith with worry. But when you walk in peace, he loses access. He cannot fight a still heart. Peace is the language of those who trust God fully. It says, "I don't understand everything, but I know enough to rest." Rest is warfare in disguise. When you choose stillness in the middle of battle, you are declaring victory before the evidence appears. The kind of peace you carry now is not naive. It's seasoned. It has scars and stories. It knows what it costs to stay calm when the world shakes. You've learned that peace doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from walking through it without letting it change your posture. There's a reason heaven calls Jesus the Prince of Peace. He doesn't just offer it, he embodies it. When his presence fills a room, panic loses breath. When his voice speaks, chaos silences itself. His peace isn't an escape, it's authority. It teaches you that even if the storm remains, you can still sleep in the boat. You are learning to live from that place now, from stillness, not striving, from trust, not tension. The storms around you may not stop, but they can no longer enter you. You are learning the art of inner stability, keeping your spirit anchored in promises stronger than fear. Peace doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means acknowledging what hurts and choosing not to be ruled by it. It means letting pain exist, but refusing to let it dictate your faith. It's not denial, it's dominion. You have carried anxiety like armor for too long. But today, heaven offers you something better. Peace doesn't ask you to be strong, it invites you to be still. It replaces the weight of control with the ease of surrender. It doesn't erase the storm, it simply removes its permission to define you. Every time you choose peace over panic, you disarm darkness. Every time you pause instead of react, heaven wins territory within you. Peace is not weak, it's warfare perfected. It's the silent strength that moves mountains without shouting. So, breathe deeply now. Feel how stillness feels like strength. Let your chest rise with faith, not fear. The same God who commanded the sea to be still commands your heart with the same authority. You are not losing control, you are finding calm. You are not drowning, you are learning to float. The storm is still loud, but your peace is louder. You no longer chase quiet, you carry it. That's what it means to be chosen, not to live without storms, but to stand unshaken in them. Peace is not your escape, it's your crown. Wear it well. Your calm becomes your testimony. Others will wonder how you kept standing, unaware that stillness itself was your sword, faith breathing quietly through every wave. And as you rest, heaven fights. The storm fades not because it weakens, but because your peace grows stronger than its roar. Eternity is closer than you think. It doesn't live at the end of time. It breathes through every moment you live in alignment with heaven. Eternity is not a distance to travel, but a dimension to awaken to. Every act of love, every whisper of obedience, every tear surrendered in faith, these are eternal things. You've been walking through shadows, learning what matters and what fades. The world teaches you to chase what shines. Heaven teaches you to invest in what lasts. Every temporary treasure loses its light with time. But the things born of spirit, faith, hope, love burn brighter the older they get. The ancient words recorded in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 18, remind us, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. That is the final lesson of the chosen, to see beyond the visible, to look past what is breaking and recognize what is being built. You were never meant to live chained to circumstance. You were meant to live connected to eternity. You've spent much of your journey learning how fragile life feels, how fast seasons shift, how sudden endings can arrive. And yet, in that fragility, something unbreakable has grown. It's the awareness that nothing in this world truly belongs to you except your choices. That is where eternity meets time, in the decision to believe, to forgive, to love again, to endure when nothing makes sense. You are not just surviving days, you are shaping forever. Every word spoken in truth echoes in heaven. Every act of kindness becomes a seed planted in eternity's soil. The unseen realm keeps record of what the visible world forgets. That's why your pain mattered. It was never wasted. It was stored in heaven's story of you. each scar marked as evidence of faith. God never loses a single moment you surrendered. Every tear remains a testimony. Every prayer, an eternal imprint. Eternity begins when your perspective changes, when you start seeing life as sacred, even in its smallest details. When you realize that washing dishes, writing words, comforting a friend, forgiving an enemy, all of it carries eternal weight when done with love. The ordinary becomes holy when done in the awareness of divine presence. Heaven doesn't count time like you do. It measures meaning. It doesn't count hours, it counts impact. A single breath of genuine worship outweighs 1,000 empty routines. Eternity is happening now, quietly expanding through your yes. You've been taught to prepare for eternity later, but heaven has been preparing eternity in you now. Every lesson, every loss, every victory, it's been shaping your eternal form, carving humility into strength and faith into vision. You are not waiting for heaven to begin. Heaven has already begun its work inside you. This is why peace has started to feel more important than pride. Why forgiveness feels freer than revenge. Why love feels heavier than hate, yet lighter on your soul. Eternity is recalibrating your values, teaching you what's truly priceless. The closer you walk with God, the less this world can hold you. You start to feel like a visitor passing through a light in a land of fading shadows. You stop clinging to what you can't keep because your hands are learning to hold what lasts forever. And that's what this entire journey has been about, not perfection, but perspective. God never expected you to be flawless. He wanted you to see differently, to look beyond pain and recognize purpose, to look beyond endings and recognize beginnings. The fire refined you, the storms matured you, the silence trained your ears to hear eternity's whisper. You no longer pray just for blessing, you pray for meaning. You no longer live for recognition, you live for remembrance, the kind heaven writes, not history. Every sacrifice you made, every time you chose light over bitterness, every moment you kept going when it would have been easier to quit, those weren't wasted. They became the fabric of your eternal story. And when this chapter of life closes, you will stand before the author, not as a failure, but as a finished masterpiece of grace. Eternity won't begin with a trumpet or a sunrise, it will begin with recognition. The moment your eyes meet his, you'll realize that all the pain, all the waiting, all the refining were worth it, because you'll see that he was there in every moment, guiding, shaping, loving, redeeming. And then, at last, peace will no longer be something you fight to keep. It will be the air you breathe forever. No more storms, no more striving, no more separation, just endless light, endless belonging, endless love. You have lived your way into forever, one surrendered moment at a time. The journey was never about escape, it was about awakening. You are not walking toward eternity anymore. Eternity has been walking beside you all along. And now, it all comes full circle. You've heard the whispers, felt the fire, and walked through the storms. You've seen how every valley held a lesson, how every silence was shaping you for strength. You are no longer the same, you are lighter, wiser, more awake. Heaven has rewritten your rhythm, and now eternity moves through your every breath. This message was never about perfection. It was about remembrance, reminding you of who you are and what you carry. The world may still shake, but you have learned to stand unshaken. The darkness may press close, but you have learned to burn brighter. You are no longer searching for purpose, you are purpose in motion. And as you let this final word rest in your heart, let your response be gentle, real, sacred. Maybe you like this message, not as routine, but as recognition that something deep inside you was reawakened. Maybe you share it, not to spread content, but to send light, to extend the echo of truth to someone still lost in shadow. You might even subscribe, not as a habit, but as a decision to stay close to the current of words that remind your spirit who it is called. Chosen, unstoppable. And when you feel led, leave a word below. Write still burning. Write it not for validation, but as testimony. Because your flame didn't die in the storm, it grew stronger. You are still burning for truth, still walking in faith, still standing in grace. Every act of engagement is more than digital, it's devotion in disguise. A spark in the great fire of heaven's movement on earth. This is not goodbye, it's a continuation. The story doesn't end here. It expands through you. Carry the flame forward. Chosen one. Keep burning. Keep believing. Keep becoming.